Yeah, hi. Mike Meddings, captain on First Air 860, going from Ottawa to Iqaluit. First Officer Mark Davies. Mark Davies will be your pilot flying today up to Iqaluit, because I chickened out, even though the weather's good. We've got a 737-400 Combi aircraft, relatively new aircraft to our fleet. Probably been in service for about a year. With the Combis coming on last November, and we've got 50 odd passengers in the back, 37,000 pounds of payload, and that's about it. Now, okay, ladies, if I can have your undivided attention. So we got flight time going up to Iqaluit of 2 hours and 50 minutes, pretty much from wheels up to wheels down. So the first 40 minutes, good chance turbulence. We're going to try to find a smooth altitude. We're going to try it at 29 and eventually either go to 31 or 33, depending on where we can find smooth air. The alternate's Kuujjuaq. Weather-wise into Iqaluit, it's just minus 25, pretty much clear skies, a little bit ice crystals. Kuujjuaq is good as well. Yes, as it always is. Kuujjuaq is always beautiful. We also have DGs today, okay? They're up in the top side deck, so it doesn't really affect you guys. Emergency-wise, we've kind of talked a little bit about the LOSA thing. We touched on it anyways. But the other thing would be something simple, say rejected takeoff. You're going to get a remain seated, and purser contact flight deck.
We'll be looking outside. She'll be looking to see what she sees. If we need to upgrade, we'll be forebelling you.
Yeah, and if you upgrade, then we're going straight into an evacuation with no stairs, no deplane. We'll assess it as need be, and then figure out exactly where we're going to go from there. All right, so questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
Let's go and do this, okay?
Sure, crew oxygen valve or safety device. We check the 4D&E bay, we check the conditions of the antennas, radar altimeters, VOR antennas. Here we're looking at the static ports. Try not to touch them, but we want to make sure that they're totally clean. Cargo guys are doing the forward cargo bay at this point. This aircraft has got a scratch and dent book that we use. Looking at the condition of the underbelly here. Inlet for the right-hand cooling pack, you can feel it's drawing in air. Cautionary signs, deflector door. Coming back into the right-hand main landing gear. We've got secondary brake indicators that we're looking at for rejected takeoff prevention. Looking at the conditions of both the hydraulic lines coming down to it. The fairing doors are secure. The main landing gear safety pin has been removed. Checking the condition of both the tires. We fly both the 200 and the 400. The 200 is gravel, so we've got to really check to make sure that the conditions of the tires are suitable. In here we have the main brake accumulator. We're checking the pressure, pre-charge pressure, the APU, the two hydraulic reservoirs, the A and the B, making sure that they're above the level. Checking to see that there's no fluids that are left in the drainage cavities at all. Checking the A system and the B system reserve hydraulic quantity pressure. Coming back out. Over to the engines, the CFM engines. From the tailplane, we're looking to make sure that all the duct working is in place. Shroud doesn't have any hydraulics leaking from it. Checking the hot section for anything that is untoward. Here we're looking at the thrust reverser sleeves. So it tells you the sleeves are actually stowed properly. And you're checking the bypass. In here, these are bumper bars for when the reverser sleeve translates. It's normal to see a bit of wear on it. And then on the number 2 engine we check, you're checking to make sure that the engine is actually cowled. So, there's 4 latches on the bottom of it. And we check those latches. check that the oil servicing panel is secure. Mass vortex dissipator for the engine. Then we come across the front section, the C1. We rotate the C1 to make sure that there's free and easy travel. And you're checking to make sure that there's no accumulation of ice behind the C1 fan, okay? Other side of it, you're just looking to make sure that all the cowling is latched, access doors are secure. Come to the back, doing the same thing here. We're checking that the bypass and that the hot section is rotating and that there's no blade failures. Access panels, defueling station, master fueling station, checking the condition of the wing itself. Obviously, we work a lot in the high Arctic where there's a lot of icing, so it's critical that we watch for icing. The nav lights, strobe lights, the logo lights, and the static dissipators. You want to ensure that the static dissipators are in place. Ailerons, fuel vent. We call this the canoes. You're checking the canoes for general condition and wear. Same as here. Checking the flaps. We'll often run a hand on the back end of the flap because it's free and clear of any fuel influence, so that if you do have icing, quite often you'll find it here. Back of the gear, we're looking at main brake indications as well. Looking to see that the oleo itself is inflated and it's not leaking any oil. Coming back off the trailing edge, rear antennas, checking the condition and security. Checking the rear cargo kit. Static port, main outflow valve, and the negative pressure relief valve. Just want to make sure that it actually goes in and out. APU inlet, toilet servicing, and bar none, tail skid. The 737-400, critical that you check it. Okay? Looking at the stabilizer and the elevator condition. Conditions of the, up on the vertical stabilizer, you can see the pitot inlet for the hydraulic system for the flight controls. Rudder and the APU. General service, discharge relief, and you want to check the general condition of the belly, of course. It's a fairly long airplane. That's why we have the tail skid. The airplane's pitch critical like a 737-800. Looking at the APU drain shroud, looking at conditions of the tires, we're looking at the main gear brakes, the strut. The safety pin has been removed. In here, we're looking at the APU pickups, or sorry, the autopilot pickups, and the fire extinguisher discharge, and our main cargo door modification. All right. Once again, we check the trailing edge of the wing, looking for wears. We're looking at the trailing edge, the wing, nav lights, vents, and the condition of the leading edge, of course. The vents that you see are for the wing anti-ice. Coming back to the hot section of the engine, thrust reversers, bypass, and on this side, the engine cowl is quite easily checked because the engine's rotated slightly. Access doors, make sure that they're secure.
the C1, and we're looking at the N1 probes for pressure and temperature, and the bottom of the engine. Mass vortex dissipator, engine oil access, bumper bars, this side, and that the N1 section is clear and free. Number 1 pack, or the left-hand pack, it's inlet. Make sure there's nothing in there. And once again, straight down the fuselage, looking at the general condition of both the antennas, and also you're looking at the nose gear from a distance so you can get an idea of the geometry of it. It's the forward outflow valve, the ingestion lines. The CFMs pull in a fair bit of air, so the ingestion line is all the way up to the front. On the actual nose wheel, we're looking at both the conditions of the oleo strut, because we've got IRS units. You want to make sure that it's tight, otherwise the airplane, if it starts to wobble, you can start to get some IRS damage. Check the conditions of the cotter pins, safety wired and secured, and look for hydraulic leaks. The probes themselves, we have an aspirated tack gauge, which is this, which means that you can hear it, there's bleed air going to it, which means that the FMS is actually getting proper information right now. Into the nose gear area, we're looking for the conditions of the steering struts, that the bypass pin is installed, and that there's no main landing gear, nose gear retraction safety pin. And as we come up, forward E&E bay is secure. The nose cone itself, you're looking for cracks, dents, bird strikes, anything like that. On this airplane, because we're in a combi, we have to check and make sure that on the outside, and I'm not too sure whether or not you got this, but the main cargo door itself, it's a modification that's been done to the aircraft. You'll see there's 2 green indicators telling us that the door is actually physically locked. There's a vent safety mechanism here, which has to be opened prior to opening the door. The door itself uses the hydraulic B system, and you're looking for the general condition of it. When they're loading freight, you want to ensure that the protection plates are in place and it's all secure. Okay? Then we go to the other side. So on this side, again, we're just checking out the nose cone itself, the radar. This is the headset usage, our static and our pitot probes. And we just check up on this side to make sure that the wheel rims have no damage to them. You're going to get cracking in a wheel. You can get fatigue cracking along here. So it's fairly important to ensure that the wheel itself is safe. And that is basically it. When we go back up, we're going to check the top side of the wing just to make sure that it's clear and free. And we're going to check the cargo section. So the cargo section, today we're at our max takeoff weight coming out of here. And yet we don't have a position in here. Normally we have 4 positions. So what we can do is we can check this front position. What you're going to notice is that there's actually a skidoo that's underneath this, which is listed as dangerous goods cargo. So I've got the document releasing the aircraft that it's been pre-flight checked by our cargo supervisors and so on and so forth. And we get notified of that prior to the flight. You can see it's general cargo right now. It's probably perishable behind it. This entire section is a Class C section modified so that we have halon drop down. We have blowout panels in the case of depressurization over here. And this is the main cargo door that we're looking at from the outside. It's got a sill plate, roller floor, hydraulic system, the 2 latches that we checked, which were the green ones, and the vent panel. Okay? So,
Start number 1, 31.
So the main things here, break a set. We ensure that number 2 is stable. We're looking at the N2, which is the hot section. The first officer is monitoring the oil pressure.
Oil pressure's rising.
So at 20% we're going to get oil pressure. We're making sure that we have an N1 rotation. 25% we're going to put the fuel on. We're looking for 1,100 pounds to start, and they'll light off within 20 seconds. Watching on the side here, the engine vibration. We're watching for a max temperature for a start of 725. Now both the N1 and the N2 section are accelerating normally. You see the vibration meter got up to about half to 3/4. We don't release the start lever until we see the engine rolling back. Starter cutout is called by the first officer. Ground flight tech, we got 2 good starts, clear to disconnect overhand signals. So that we see that both engines are stable. Ground crews told us the bypass pin is out, the tug and tow bar disconnected, and off they go to release the hand signals. Make sure that both start leaves are in. We're going to go with the generators on and call for the after start and flap 5. For the captain, it's a flow, boost pumps up and across, veto heat goes on, A system gets pressurized. We're looking to see that the cabin is starting to pressurize slightly to 1.125 prior to departure. First officer does his flow, which is the packs and the air ground switch into the flight mode, and then he starts reading the after start checklist.
Generators.
They are on.
Hydrostatic heat.
It is on.
Anti-ice.
Anti-ice is off.
Air conditioning pressurization.
Auto and flight.
Hydraulics.
Pressures, the quantities changed.
Start levers.
Idly.
Ground equipment.
It is clear.
Ground hello, Empress 436, gauge 9, push start please. Empress 436, Ottawa ground, 1 push back and start, 2 push start, ground 436.
Ground is first there's 860, Digimax 025.
First 3060, ground runway 25, altimeter 2981, taxi to apron, the expression and run.
291, first discretion, and first there's
2981.
4247, Ottawa ground, 1 taxi to apron, the expression 2 feet. Hey, Paris, okay,
Alright, we're about to do the before takeoff checklist. You may have not seen this before. The 727 had this. KLM put this in as the flight control monitoring system, which is a great idea. So I'm going to say flight controls. We're going to go rudder left. Right.
ailerons left. Ailerons right. Elevator up. Elevator down. Flight controls check.
Right. And then before takeoff checklist.
Green call.
And recall's been checked.
Checked. Flight controls.
They have been checked.
Checked. Flaps.
5 required and 5 green light.
Stabilizer trim.
4.5. This is set.
Flight instruments and radios.
They are set for departures.
Departure. Takeoff data briefing.
Viewed by set.
View back set. You on the throttle?
Disarm.
Ottawa clearance, 772.
Cabin
6. We have identifier
Hello.
625 Yankee to Montreal.
Cabin secure.
726 Ottawa
Cabin
ground,
is
good morning,
secure.
request
You're down the
direct
line.
contact run 1219 for taxi. Thank you.
Let's go blue line, please.
Engine start switches.
Continuous.
Transponder.
It's TARA.
Hit the setting.
Cross check.
Press check. Takeoff checks to go. Clearance to go.
Check.
And lights. One to clear.
There, 860 tower, contact departure 12817, airport 1220 at 10 knots, clear takeoff runway 25, there is an RJ 2.5 miles an hour.
Takeoff 24 stairs.
Your controls clear takeoff.
check.
Cat 7731, wind 220, 10 knots per glass, wind 25. Clear lap 5, yeah, 773.
A1. Rotate. Pause, ready. Gear up. Adjust speed 220. Adjust speed 220. Flap one.
Cat 7731, exit right on 32, contact ground there, 121.5 today. Cat 773.
What's up?
Tower Golf, Lima Kilo November, only short of 22, ready to take off. Lima Kilo November, Ottawa Tower, turn to right during Stones Corner, not above 1,500 feet, wind 210 at 10, clear takeoff runway at 22. Stay north, runway 25 at all times. Lima Kilo November.
So this morning we are parked at gate 23. I think you saw the push back and the engine start up, and then as we exited, we come out of the exit point of the ramp, which is an uncontrolled ramp, and we picked up the Bravo taxiway and we taxied down for departure off of runway 25. So coming out of runway 25 today, the airplane was weighing in at 137,000 pounds. With regards to that takeoff weight, we were within 1,000 pounds of the max takeoff weight of the aircraft. So today the max weight was 137.8, and our final numbers had us coming in at 137,000 pounds. So we came down to the threshold of runway 25, and then we flew the Ottawa 3 departure out of there. So the Ottawa 3 departure, we set up on the, once we get our clearance, we set it up on the mode control panel, which had a maximum altitude of 5,000 feet. And we also always have on a takeoff data card, we have our engine out procedure in the event that we were to lose an engine. In this particular case today, the engine out procedure was basically fly runway heading 251. The commonality that we need with the 200 and the 400 means that we have a paper takeoff data card, even though in a 400 technically we don't need it. But for example, coming out of Iqaluit today, southbound, we'll be taking off to the north, and if we lose an engine in Iqaluit today, we'll make a left-hand turn and head south over the water for terrain separation. Today, however, it's just the Ottawa 3, marked at the takeoff, the aircraft rotates. We have a maximum pitch on the takeoff of 10 degrees. Because of the length of the fuselage, the main thing that we're afraid of in this aircraft is a tail strike. So he doesn't go above 10 degrees. If he does, then I make a call and he reacts to it. Flew up, we get to what we call TOCA, which is takeoff clearance altitude. We use 1,000 feet above the ground. He then called for climb thrust speed of 220 knots. So me, because I'm the pilot monitoring, I set climb thrust using the N1 switch, and the speed switch goes up to 220 knots. You then retracted the flaps. Once we get the flaps up and the lights are out, you engage the autopilot into command B, which is driving the B flight control computer. So then we got a clearance, I believe, to 13,000 feet. They asked for a max forward speed, which for us, we're in Canada, we're speed limited to 250 below 10 still. It's not like in Europe where they give you free speed. Leaving 10,000 feet, we accelerate up to a climb speed of about 290 knots. We got clearance direct to a place called Radon, which is just a waypoint north of Ottawa. And but even before we got to Radon, ATC cleared us directly to Yankee Fox Yankee. So.